We've had multiple times where the ceiling has fallen down, where there's been holes in the walls, where it's harder to get rid of the rats in the basement and everything, and it's hard to heat and cool the building because of how large it
The
is.
troubling conditions inside Baltimore City schools frequently go viral. Now, a group of students, parents, and civil rights organizations are suing to make the state do something about it.
By the state's own data, over 80% of the city's schools are in poor or very poor condition. By the state's own data, almost $300 million are not given to the city schools every single year. By the city's data, there's a shortfall of $3 billion to improve the facilities in the city schools.
High school senior Deshauna Bryant suffers from sickle cell anemia.
One thing that sets my disease off is low temperatures. If I'm too cold, then my body will shut down and I can go into a pain crisis.
And has been hospitalized multiple times because of extreme cold in her classroom.
That sets up a bad environment for me because it'll send me into a pain crisis, and then I'll have to go to the hospital.
The heat frequently doesn't work. Advocates blame the state of Maryland. And on Monday, they got unanimous support of the Baltimore City Council.
Say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. The motion carries and the resolution is adopted.
Thank you.
I have long been skeptical of the General Assembly's willingness to properly fund Baltimore City Public Schools, and I have thought that this would be necessary, that we would return to the courts as the entity that the minority has to go to when the majority will not do what it should.
I know because I used to be a teacher that too many of our schools look like jails. Too many of our kids are going to schools in buildings where the windows are fogged over, where you can't breathe, where you get asthma just from walking around, where kids are exposed to an inordinate amount of trauma.
The ACLU of Maryland and NAACP Legal Defense Fund are seeking to reopen a case originally filed in 1994. In Bradford, a judge sided with the plaintiffs and ruled the state needed to start spending more money in Baltimore, where the students are majority black and living in poverty. For Deshauna Bryant, she sees fully funded schools as a key in not only transforming learning conditions, but the city itself.
It has a terrible impact on Baltimore City public school students because everyone wants to judge us, how they don't think we're the best students, how we're not up there in test scores and everything. But we can't have the best test scores. We can't be the best students if we're not put in the proper environment.
25 years later, advocates argue the state continues to fail to adequately fund city schools. Many say Maryland has never adequately funded schools for poor black children.
Listen to Deshauna. Listen to every word she said. Children can't wait for the state to get this right.
This must be corrected now. It's a moral issue, it's a legal issue, it's a constitutional issue. We thank the City Council for their action, and we look forward to a prompt resolution of this issue.
Baltimore receives the fourth highest per pupil funding among large school districts in the country, and Hogan has parroted a line that Baltimore schools are not underfunded but mismanaged.
Politically speaking, that's exactly what you say when you don't want to actually provide the money you could fund and you want to distract people from that fact.
It's a constitutional standard. They have to provide enough money to provide a thorough and efficient education by contemporary standards. Just because they provided more money than they did the previous year doesn't mean that they're meeting the standards. So say if you have a family of 5 and they had 1 loaf of bread for an entire month, just because they had 2 loaves of bread the next month doesn't mean that it's enough food to feed the family.
The ACLU of Maryland and NAACP Legal Defense Fund are holding a town hall on Tuesday, May 7th to help gain support for their lawsuit. With Taylor Hebden, this is Jessel Noor in Baltimore.